So, in this video, I just wanted to talk about the Arkham games. Now, on my channel, I've been gone for quite some time, about like 6 months, but I've now found a topic that I want to talk about, and that is the Arkham games. In this video, I'm going to be predominantly playing Arkham Knight because, well, that's just the one I have available right now, because the older games are the older games, so yeah. Anyway, without being further ado, I'm going to explain why I like the Arkham games. For one, they are consistent, surprisingly. Like, they are consistent for games. The Arkham series is a very consistent series, and while the last few games are nowhere near as good as City, that is true. That is very true. It is not as good as City. But Arkham Knight is still good. Arkham Knight had a rough PC port at the time. PC ports were pretty bad to have. Even then, it did have issues with some of its mechanics, like the Batmobile. But the transversal and mechanics themselves were actually very good. It was well paced, had an interesting story, good looking visuals, and good combat. It carried what the first two did, and while it's nowhere near as good as the second one, that's Arkham City, which I think is the best out of all of them, it still ended up being very good for a game, and I think Arkham Knight was just that good. And then I look back at Arkham Origins. Arkham Origins is not even a bad game. It's still a very good game. Though it did have issues with, like, the bugs it had at release, but other than that, I'm pretty sure it was well received. Not as much as the other ones, though. And then you look at the first two, Arkham Asylum, which was just a great introduction, and it's just so iconic and memorable, and it pretty much paved the way for superhero games to not even be terrible or mediocre. And while there were good ones before, I never played a good one before Arkham Asylum, so from my experience, it was the first good one I played. Though I'm pretty sure there have, again, been good ones before. But then there's Arkham City, and that one was very good. Arkham City was an incredible game with just adding more to Arkham Asylum, with the city being like a city, and also just improved mechanics from the first game. And even Origins had like great boss fights. Arkham Knight, I still think is good. I still like it as a game. It does have issues, but it still carried what the first two did good. And I think that's what made the Arkham series just such a good series, at least for me, was because of how good these games were. And then there was Spider-Man, which came out in 2018, and that one was also very good. Like, Spider-Man was also very good, and it borrowed a lot of what made the Arkham games good. And then I believe they're gonna make a second game towards that. And I'm not even a fan of superheroes. I just find these games fun and very replayable. Like, I can go back and replay the Arkham games. And that's why I think the Arkham games are just a good series of. To further add more, because I wasn't done before, I had an audio thing, I just wanted to continue more. See, a lot of games now are not that good. Like, Avengers was bad, Gotham Knights was bad, but the Arkham series is a series to go back on because of games like that. And one game I want to mention that isn't even an Arkham game is Guardians of the Galaxy. And Guardians of the Galaxy is a great game. I just wanted to get that out of the way.
One hostage. Time to put this suit to the test.
What the hell was that?
The new suit is faster and more mobile. The Batmobile's powering the antenna. We can't use it right now.
Help me! Man, they said you were quick, but I never saw anyone take down three-armed guys like that. Unbelievable.
You're safe now. I'll send someone to pick you up.
Thank you. You tell me you're gonna find Scarecrow. That son of a bitch needs to be stopped.
Oracle.
May I add that the level of impact the Arkham games had? I mean, we have games like Shadow of Mordor and Spider-Man, which use a lot of the mechanics that the Arkham series introduced, especially the combat system, which is a very specific combat system that involves combos, blocking, and overall stuff like that. I wouldn't compare it to something like, Dark Souls, where it has a completely different combat system and everybody compares everything to Dark Souls. I will say that Arkham's combat has won two games elsewhere, so I just had to mention that. And it's very hard to describe why I like these games so much. I guess it's because none of them suck. That is the simplest I can put it. But other than that, these games have a great combat system and overall just show that that games like this can definitely be very good, especially um, for that reason. I just like so much about these games, especially their story and atmosphere.